Okay, so this is our first video of the year, and we're taking on the question, what is technology? Now, this is a word that we throw around almost every day, and it doesn't actually mean what most people use it for, which is one of those odd things. Um, we tend to associate technology with things like electricity or computers or phones or things that are digital or electronic. But in fact, technology is just simply things that people do in order to change the world. Seems like a pretty big order there. We change the world to either suit our needs or our wants. So we modify the world that's around us so that it will better do what we need it to do or what we want it to do. Now, this means that it's just any way that we make a modification to the world, or LD, there we go, modification to the world. It has nothing to do, or at least doesn't have to do, with being digital or electric. Sometimes technologies are digital or electric, but very rarely, and definitely not always. Okay, so we're going to describe some major periods of technological development. The first one is going to be the Stone Age. The Stone Age is about 2 million years ago. In the Stone Age, we did, well, the obvious is that we made stone tools. So this is the first time we shaped stones in order to make tools so that we can modify our world. We also had the ability to harness fire, and we used this for heating, for cooking, so that we could make food we could take food and make it healthier for us and easier to work with, and for protection, right? So if we had a fire, something was less likely to come along and try to eat us or hurt us in some way. So that was the Stone Age. The second period is what we call the Bronze Age. Bronze Age, there we go. This is approximately 6,500 years ago. So this is much more recent. And in this age, we have the discovery of copper. Copper is pretty significant. In this period, copper would have been something that's easily bent and malleable. You can turn it into sharp edges. You could use it to bind things together. It also conducts heat very well, and later we find that it also conducts electricity very well. So copper coming along is pretty big. We start developing agriculture. So we're no longer hunter-gatherers. We're actually in a period now where we're growing reliable crops and starting to do animal husbandry. We actually start seeing cities for the first time, collections of people coming together for mutual benefit. That's a pretty big deal. So this leads us to the Iron Age. The Iron Age is about 2,500 years ago. So this is like pretty recent. The note here is that we have iron, which is something that we can pull straight from the ground, and we have steel, which is an alloy made out of iron, and other metals. It's a little bit harder, has some higher tensile strength. At this time, we start seeing the first major migration from farm to city. So this is a big jump in the way that we're living together. Okay, and then we come into what we call the Middle Ages. And I think the Middle Ages get a bad rap. I mean, they're oftentimes like seen as like the Dark Ages or whatever. This is a period from about 500 in the Common Era to 1400 in the Common Era. In the Middle Ages, we get a big jump forward here, though. We start doing book printing. So Gutenberg is on the horizon here. He's kind of like the big jump between the Middle Ages and the next period, the Renaissance. But we're definitely scribing books prior to him, and we have printing presses, but not with movable type. So that's kind of a big deal there. We have the water wheel, so we're actually like harnessing rivers not only for food and transportation, but we're actually able to turn a mechanical advantage so that we can run like saws and mills and things like this using flowing water. And for the first time, we use paper money because we're printing. So engraving happens, and we have the advent of paper money, so you don't have to carry around a big sack of like gold coins anymore. Money becomes much more lightweight. So this is our fourth period, the Middle Ages. The fifth period is the big one. It's what's called the Renaissance. I think social studies teachers love to talk about the Renaissance. It's a period from 1400 in the Common Era to approximately 1750 in the Common Era. The Renaissance has a rapid advance in technology. A lot of this is fueled by the printing press, the movable type printing press that Gutenberg gives us. But you start seeing like people coming on the scenes with like telescopes, and we start seeing, looking out at the stars, we start seeing advances in mathematics that eventually lead to Newton and calculus. And then Newton's laws of physics. This is right at the end of the Renaissance. But there's a huge period in here where you have a revival of art, some of the greatest artists in history, science, and definitely we have like a neoclassical period of architecture here. So big, huge movements, art, science, and architecture. The next thing is we have an industrial revolution, which we talk about quite frequently again in social studies. It's from about 1750 in the Common Era to as recently as 1900. So this is starting to get like really close to us. The Industrial Revolution, is the big thing is we have machines, machinery. We always talk about the cotton gin, like kind of upset the apple cart in the southern part of the United States, made cotton production much faster. Lots of machines start coming onto the scene here. We end up with power vehicles. We power a car, and not long after, the big change around 1900 is we start powering flight. We're powering boats and trains. We have steam, and electrical power is occurring at this time. So gas-powered engines, all of this is coming along. Here we have another massive migration to the cities. Because like things like the tractor are being invented, so the gas powered tractor or diesel powered tractor, so like there's not as much need for as many people in farming. Yet when machines come to the cities, they can be put into factories, fabrication can happen, lots of jobs in the cities, fewer jobs on the farms. Our current period tends to be called the Information Age. So this is from around the turn of the century, turn of last century, 1900, turn of the century I was born in, not the century you were born in, to present day. This is centered around the advent of computers, the internet has definitely changed our world. This is a period that's marked with fast advances, or at least changes in science and tech. Like, it's amazing how fast things are changing at this point. All right, so those are your major periods of technological growth. We want to talk about something that's called a patent. Patent is something that protects inventors and possibly spurs on technological change. A government will issue a patent to an inventor for a particular technology that they have invented, and it gives them the sole means to make, distribute, and sell that technology, but it's for a limited time. Okay, so when you invent something, you go to your government, you say, I want a patent, and you get to be the only person that can make, distribute, or sell that for a limited amount of time. Now, in the United States, that time period is 20 years. Okay, and the idea behind this is that a person who has put in the R&D, or the research and design of time and money, should have the right, according to the concept of a patent, to be able to make and distribute and sell their product for 20 years in order to make up that R&D cost before somebody takes their R&D efforts and starts making money in a competitive market. So this is under a certain philosophy of limited intellectual property ownership. This is a debatable point, but it's definitely part of the technological development cycle here in the United States. All right, so there's your overview. Technology is how we change the world to get our wants and our needs met. We've gone through 7 major periods of technology in human history. And we also have this little document called a patent in the United States that allows someone who is making technological shifts the right to recoup their research and design costs by having a limited time of about 20 years to make, distribute, and sell their product almost as a monopoly. All right, so there you go. That's your first set of notes.